Hi everyone and welcome to members, officers, the press who may be in attendance via Zoom and members of the public joining this evening's Cabinet meeting on the 2nd of November 2021. As members in the room will be aware, as will officers in the room, the meeting is also being live streamed on YouTube. So welcome to everyone watching this live broadcast of a formal meeting of the Cabinet here at Newham Councils. Councillors and members of the Cabinet that are unable to join the meeting in person are obviously able to participate remotely, but they won't be able to present an item, move or second a motion or vote, and their attendance will not be officially recorded. And then with regards to meeting etiquette, please can I ask if you're in both the room or accessing and participating with this Cabinet meeting via Zoom, that you raise your hand physically, or if you're on Zoom, if you could raise your hand using the hand symbol, should I say, on the Zoom dashboard. And then can I ask that everyone physically present continues to wear their face mask until you are invited to speak. After you have finished speaking, please do cover your face again. And then may I just remind members and officers to introduce themselves when you're speaking, to either present or engage on an item, or if you've got a question that you want to be asking. So let's get cracking and jump into it. So agenda item 1 set out in the agenda pack is apologies for absence. And I've received the following apologies for absence so far, and then I'm going to ask clerk to the committee, Joy, to advise if there are any other apologies that she has formally received before I open up. So I've received apologies from Althea Loderick, the Chief Executive, who, for the purposes of today's formal Cabinet meeting, is being deputised by a member of the corporate management team, Jessica Crow, who's joining us via Zoom. I've also got Councillor Anne Easter, Councillor Charlene McLean, Councillor Shaban Mohammed. I have also Councillor Carleen Lee Parkway and Councillor Genevieve Kitchen. Are there any other apologies, Joy, that you can advise me on?
Yes, there are. There's apologies from Councillor Jane Lofthouse and Councillor Nilofer Jahan.
Thank you very much. And any other members of the Cabinet, either in this room or on Zoom? I know that we've got Councillor Sarah Ruiz on Zoom. Any other apologies that you've received from anyone? No? Okay, thank you very much. Just drawing everyone's attention to agenda item 2, declarations of interest, which are set out on pages 9 to 10. Can I ask members of the Cabinet present if there are any declarations of interest pertaining to matters that we're going to be discussing and making a determination of? Are there any?
No, sir.
No? Okay. Have you noted that, Joy?
Yes, Chair, I have. Yes, thank you.
Thank you very much. And then moving on to agenda item 3, which are minutes of the formal meeting of Cabinet held on the 5th of October. And I am taking it that the minutes of that meeting have been read and considered. And I would like to invite members of Cabinet in the room to consider and agree the minutes of that Cabinet held in October. So can I ask that you agree the minutes as accurate?
Agreed.
Yep, agreed and agreed from me. Thank you very much. Agenda item 4, appointments to outside bodies. There will be no appointments to outside bodies being confirmed today. And then, if I may, apologies, Joy, who is acting as clerk to the committee. I just want to make a few adjustments to the running order for the remaining agenda items, if I may.
Okay.
Thank you very much. So in terms of the agenda items as printed, we've gone through agenda item 1 and 4, and then the subsequent agenda items will just be reordered in the following way. So current agenda item 5 will become agenda item 6. Current agenda item 6 will become agenda item 9. Agenda item 7 in the agenda pack will remain agenda item 7. Agenda item 8 in the agenda pack will become agenda item 12. Agenda item 9 in the agenda pack will become agenda item 13. Agenda item 10 in the agenda pack will become agenda item 11. Agenda item 11 in the agenda pack will become agenda item 8. Agenda item 12 in the agenda pack will become agenda item 10. And then agenda item 13 in the agenda pack will become agenda item 5. And then you'll note agenda item 14 exclusion of the press and public, 14, 15, 16 and 17 remain as they currently are in the published agenda pack. And just to advise members of Cabinet, both on Zoom and in the room, once we come to particular agenda items, there are aspects of those reports that have exempt appendices. And if we were to want to discuss any elements of those exempt appendices, I would have to evoke the exclusion of press and public. So let's go to, is that okay, Joy?
Yes, that's fine. I've got that. Thank you.
All right, super. So we're going to kick off this evening with a really important and significant agenda item, and I'll be inviting the Cabinet lead who has been working this up and marshalling this through the organisation to introduce in a moment. But before he does, I wanted to say a few words, given the significance of this agenda item coming today on the second formal day of what is known as the COP26 Leader Summit, 2 weeks of high-level conversations, hundreds of delegates attending COP26 in Glasgow. And as you will have all heard, the Prime Minister and the Minister of State, who's presiding over COP26 proceedings, have very much alerted not only this country but the world that we're in the last chance saloon as it pertains to climate emergency and the threat that rising posed to the very existence of humanity and the planet. And as you all know, back in 2019 in April, full council here in Newham approved and passed and declared a climate emergency. And since then, we've worked and been working to meet our obligations initially set out for carbon neutrality by 2030 and carbon zero by 2050. But most recently, we've signed up to the Network 100 pledge to get to carbon zero of all council operations by 2045. These are bold and drastic, rightly so, actions that we need to take as a council in advance of the climate emergency response that all of us have a moral obligation to progress with and embrace, and in the interests of the future life of not only our residents but also the rest of humanity. So it's with great pleasure that today we are bringing forward to formal Cabinet a very important contribution to our action plan as it pertains to address the climate emergency. And I welcome Secretary Paul to introduce the agenda item new 5, Public Sector Decarbonisation Award of Contract for Newham Dockside under PSDS grant, which are set out pages 231 to 240 in the agenda pack. Over to you.
Thank you very much, Mayor. And with me today as my lead officers is Mark Barton, Director of Management, and Wasim Ishak, who's the Senior Energy Advisor. And I'll bring him in when I conclude my opening remarks. Some more technical questions This is a good news story, as you said, Mayor. And to put it into context, this builds on our mission to decarbonise our footprint. Earlier this year, I brought forward to you and my team and Mark did a paper about using green energy for all our head office buildings. And this is the other plank of our strategy to decarbonise our footprint. Really, it's important to put it into that context. And obviously, as it says in the report, this does, as the Mayor's already pointed out, what I would say a demonstration to the public and the wider community that we don't just pass a motion, but we actually take the steps to deliver on the motion as a council. And what I will say, it's a great what we've got here, and what for grant funding to decarbonise and to reduce our footprint at the council. What this does, it provides an alternative solution with regards to a heat pump, and also to the extension to the LED lighting replacement dioxide. And as some of us know as councillors, we get lots of cases about doing about. This is a direct consequence and a move towards sorting that out. And I think this is a really great piece of work. And I will conclude by saying this builds on our actual demonstration about what are we doing about it, rather than just. And if I can, Mayor, just got Mark and the team who are here who might want to add some additional comments to what I've just said, and perhaps to inform the wider public and the record of what we're doing on that.
Okay, brilliant. Thank you very much. Mark and Wasim, please do make some points as they pertain to this paper. Specifically, it would be really useful for us to hear what impact this will have in terms of the savings, but also the carbon impact that this will have at the council.
Thank you, Mayor. I'll be brief and I'll let Wasim, as the subject matter expert, cover the benefits that you mentioned just now. Just very briefly to add, this is just a technical variation to the solution that came before Cabinet in May, but it's one that will be compliant and meet the grant funding deadline. Just wanted to highlight in paragraph 316 of the report, there is a timeline. So just to confirm, we are running in alignment with that timeline. So we are now, we've progressed to stage 1, and we've had compliant tenders. So we are now looking towards the investment grade proposal and the remainder of the activities listed as happening in December. So just to confirm, we are on that timeline. If you don't mind, I'll invite Wasim just to confirm the environmental and financial benefits that accrue as a result of the revised proposal.
Of course. Hi, Wasim.
Hi. Thank you so much, Honourable Mayor and the Cabinet. I would like to add few things. First of all, that this project will reduce 320 tons of CO2 emissions from our corporate emissions, and we will be saving £220,000 per annum after the implementation of this project. As we all know that our headquarter building, Newham Dockside, is one of the largest building in our portfolio, and is also has the highest carbon emissions levels as compared to other buildings within our corporate portfolio. So this project will set a baseline of our decarbonization agenda. So as Mark mentioned, we are with the timelines, we are up to date, and we awarded the first stage contract for the detailed design and for the investment grade proposal. So now this report is seeking approval of the Cabinet for the delegation for the award of works contract to the corporate director in consultation with Cabinet member for finance. Thank you so much.
Thank you very, very much. Sarah, do you have any questions or points of clarification you wanted to raise?
No, thank you, Mayor.
Okay, thank you very much. Any other colleagues? Yeah, Thorpe.
Just a comment, Chair. First of all, thank you very much. Indeed, it's a great work by Cabinet Finance and the team. Well done to you. As Wasim said, this sets a baseline. It achieves a good amount of reduction in carbon decarbonization, and also makes some savings in the cost as well. My only comment is with regard to the timescale. Yes, it's tied to actually award the contract, but what about the delivery of the actual commitment that we're making as a result of this grant? When will that, I mean, what is the phasing that may enable us to deliver this over what sort of period?
Did you catch that, Mark or Wasim?
Yes. In the first stage award, the contractors, they have agreed on the implementation date of 31st of March 2022, because this is the deadline given by the grant provider. So yes, this is agreed. This is already agreed, and because that's why we have to revise the technical proposal, because now we are changing from ground source and water source heat pumps to air source heat pump. So yes, as it is deliverable, and it is agreed by the contractor so far that this will be implemented by the March 2022 deadline.
So within 12 months of that date, we should be achieving 320 ton reduction. Yes.
Yes. Yes.
Well done. It's a great achievement. Well done.
Thank you.
Okay, fine. Thank you very much. Is there anything else that you wanted to add, Terry, by way of conclusion?
It's just that really support what was seen made was about the savings of carbon, the 320 tons. I think it's a very important thing to tell people, but doing the right thing on decarbonisation actually saves us money, which is quite a good thing. So I think that's a really good point to make.
Yeah. May I just, one question for clarification. You know, the paper in essence is updating the previous paper that came to Cabinet. Just wanted to get clarification. Is the additional, the £220,000 per year that has been referenced, reduction of the carbon consumption by 320 tonnes per year, how does that improve from what was previously presented in the Cabinet paper, or is it the same?
Yeah, no, it is a different, Mayor. Previously, in the initial proposal, the savings were £250,000 per annum, and the carbon savings were 440 tons of CO2. But because of the strict timelines, we have not received any of the compliant bids because of the stakeholder involvement, especially the RODMA and because of the planning permissions. So that's why we actually have to revise the proposal. So with the revised proposal, it is the savings reduced by £30,000, £30,000, and the carbon emissions reductions reduced from 440 tons of CO2 to 320 tons of CO2. But the good thing is we will be having an alternate system at the dock side in the revised design, that we will be having air source heat pump as well as boilers as a standby arrangement. So from technical point of view, this is a very good design.
Okay, fine. So just to be clear, the initial previous savings that were expected to be achieved as set out in the Cabinet paper earlier this year, and the tons have decreased, but that's not because that's a reflection of the decrease of our ambition. It's because of the process required, and that has had an impact on our original assumptions because of the delivery timeframe having been squeezed, and hence the savings amount and the tons amount have been adjusted accordingly. And the reason it has to come back to Cabinet is because it has to come back to Cabinet. Yeah. All right, fine. So just one other thing I just wanted to flag. You know, this paper, and probably many others going forward will no doubt still reference the council's committed to carbon neutrality by 2030 and carbon zero by 2050. But in light of the UK 100 pledge that was agreed by myself, just want to, so that's now the new pledge for the council. So that just needs to be reflected in cabinet papers going forward and just recorded in minutes.
Okay. No, can I,
Yeah,
through you, to perhaps Jessica as the cabinet member, Jessica as the cabinet member in charge of democratic services, but we amend the templates of the reports going forward to capture that. So we capture the 2030, 2050, but also the carbon 100 thing as well.
yeah. Is that okay, Jessica?
Yes, that's noted. I'll work with colleagues in democratic services and that up.
Yeah, and just to clarify for the purposes of the minutes, the signing up of UK 100 pledge, it's a net zero pledge. The council's committed itself to net zero council operations by 2030, net zero area-wide emissions by 2045, annual reporting, and number 3, commit to limit the use of offsets, only using as a last resort, and ensuring that these are as local as possible. I can email you the wording of that, Joy, if it helps.
Yes, please. That would be fine. Thank you.
Okay, thank you very much. Right, so I'm going to go to approval. I'm just checking if there's anyone that wants to speak. No? Okay, so can I just draw everyone's attention in the room to the recommendations on big page number 232. Recommendations for the reasons set out in the report, Cabinet is recommended to agree, delegate authority to the Corporate Director of Resources in consultation with the Cabinet Member for Finance and Corporate Services to award contracts on the terms set out in the report. Is that agreed? Yeah, agreed. That's agreed by all of us in the room, Joy.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Thank you. We're now going to be moving on to agenda item new 6, and that's Donald Hunter House residential funding and commercial acquisitions. And please, just by way of a reminder for members in the room and also on Zoom, there are exempt appendices for this item, and if you did want to raise a matter pertaining to references in the exempt appendices, then I'm going to need to exclude the press and public. So please be mindful. That will also include suspension of the streaming on YouTube. Right, so I'm going to actually introduce Councillor Terry Paul, Councillor Terry Paul to introduce this item because of Councillor Shaban's absence today.
Thank you, Mayor. This report is actually a good thing, actually, and I'll explain, not for what it says on the paper, but actually the coming together of the finance team and the housing directorate coming together to solve a problem and make the solution ourselves. In a sense, what we've come together as the housing department has been sort of the client. They've set out their need. Obviously, there's about approximately 6,000 families in temporary accommodation. Obviously, within that client group, there are people there with some disability needs and mobility needs and various other family unit needs. And what we've done, we've actually ensured, but we've listened to our housing colleagues about the type of accommodation they need. What we've done as finance to deploy our commercial expertise and the financial resources of the council to enable us to come together and develop a solution. And this is a physical demonstration of that, and it's Donald Hunter House. And it's for those residents listening, it's the building on top of the library in Forest Gate, the corner of Wood Range Road and Longford Road. It's that big old building, and showing that age, it used to be the BT exchange. But I think what we've done there is actually taking what we need to do and provide good quality temporary accommodation for our residents. There are 80 units there we are proposing to buy, and obviously with 2 commercial units, which is the Iceland supermarket for other brands available there, and also the library, which is a council facility. But I'm really proud of this because obviously, as councillors will know, Donald Hunter House has been a continual feature, let's say, of our casework for a number of years in terms of its quality when it was owned by previous outside private sector providers. But now we're seeking to bring it in-house to provide our residents who are in need of temporary accommodation with the right quality which they deserve and desire. And I would say to Cabinet, other council colleagues listening and to the members of the public, I'm really proud of this, and Councillor Shaban Mohammed, who's also here, which is a joint piece of work between ourselves and our team. I think it's a very important piece of work, and it shows what can be done if we just apply ourselves to the challenge and problem in hand and come up with solutions. And in helping me, there is Giles Clark, who's the Director of Property, who could answer any questions which are not able to be determined by the exempt nature. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Are there any questions, colleagues? Sarah, do you have any questions?
A comment more.
Okay, please do.
Just really picking up on the comment that Terry made about the standard of the provision of the accommodation in this building is actually really poor. And I am really pleased that we are going to be taking it back in-house, doing a refurbishment, which means that actually, not only will our members' inquiries inbox not be clogged up with complaints, but it also means that we're actually going to be providing good quality accommodation. So I really welcome this report, and well done to Councillor Shaban and Councillor Terry.
Okay, thank you very much. I've just got one question, Terry. I understand that the negotiations are ongoing, and what this paper is asking is approval for maximum price. And part of an aspect of the negotiations is, who's liable for repairs to be carried out, given what Sarah has said about the state of the building. And actually, for me, this is another example of us demonstrating under this administration, we're on our resident side, and we're going to be tackling a whole range of ills that our residents face, including poor housing, not only in our own stock, but also in the private rented sector. And this is a way in which we're also acquiring property to help ease the housing crisis here. But how are those negotiations going, and how soon will they be concluded?
I'll let Giles is deep in the detail. I'll let Giles come back on that if I can.
Thank you, Councillor Paul. Thank you, Mayor. I'll answer the second question first around how long will it take. I think we can't give a definite time period because it really depends on the cooperation of the seller. At the moment, there is disagreement with the seller about what allowance should be made to the price to undertake the repairs. Obviously, those discussions are ongoing. There is a disagreement. We've had detailed surveys carried out, and there are quite significant repair requirements at the building. At the moment, the purchaser is demonstrating some inflexibility, I would say. But I think it is important that we get to the right answer rather than overpay for an asset that would create a different set of problems for the council, where we're not able to reach a price that officers are officers believe to be the right price for the asset.
Okay, fine. Thank you very much. I'm going to suggest that we move straight to recommendations consideration, unless you've got a particular question.
That's a quick question. Firstly, well done. It's a great example of cross-departmental working to achieve the corporate aims and objective to ensure that we meet our corporate priorities. So my only question is, as it's been said that the negotiations are ongoing, and recommendation 2.13 suggests that it needs to be resolved to satisfaction obviously, our colleagues involved in here. I'd just like to know what tests are being used to test that scenario, and also whether any potential change in interest rates could have an impact in terms of negotiation that we're currently having, and would that affect the net present value that we've been suggested here in the report?
Thank you, Councillor. So the approach that we take is we have an independent valuation carried out of the asset, and that valuation is carried out at a relatively early stage in our negotiations. We subsequently carry out detailed physical surveys of the fabric of the building, and when it transpires that the condition of the building is poorer than had been assumed when the valuation was carried out, we obviously need to make an adjustment so that the amount that we are paying is in line with the valuation less the costs that had not been anticipated when the valuation was carried out. So that is the approach. In terms of any potential rise in interest rates, at a market level, pricing, the investment market will build in any sort of expectation that they may have about changes in interest rates. As far as the council is concerned, we have a set of interest rates which are based on long-term interest rates that we effectively apply to a cash flow to get to the net present value. At the moment, those interest rates haven't changed, and so the pricing is based on those that we currently use.
Thank you. Thank you, Chair.
I remember that a lot of the details in the exempt pieces. Okay, so we're going to go to recommendations as set out on big page number 24. But before I do, welcome Councillor James Asser. And no, don't worry. I just wanted to ask for clarification. Are you able to advise if a cabinet member comes midway through a discussion of a cabinet paper that we need to make a determination on, is that cabinet member exempt from voting?
I think provided that the cabinet member is satisfied that he's read the papers and he has, he's well informed on the contents of the papers and the exempt premises, then if he's satisfied that he can make an informed decision, then that's fine.
Okay, but you're not compelled to, so it's...
I have read the papers and I have had discussions.
Okay, fine. So, can I just get a view in terms of, do we agree the recommendations as set out, big page number 24 going on to page number 25? Do we agree?
Agreed.
Agreed. That's an agreement by all, Joy.
Great, yeah.
Thank you very much. And James, we've done a bit of a mashup on the agenda items, so follow us. I'm not teasing you deliberately. I'm not playing with your mind. Right, so that's now...
Mine isn't next, and you've given me 2 minutes to sit and sort when we get the agenda ready.
Don't worry, you have a bit of time. We've made some additional moves. So that's agenda item 7, as was and as is now, but we've concluded. And we're now going to be going over to new agenda item 8, which previously, is published as agenda item 11. So that's the disposal of land on north side of North Woolwich Road, E16. And similarly, I'm going to be handing over to Councillor Terry Paul to introduce.
Thank you, Chair. This is, if I can take cabinet members and members of the public back, one of our strategic ambitions of this organisation is to unlock our assets to the benefit of the residents of Newham and to ensure our rate of growth and a better standard of life for everyone locally. And this is again an example of putting up policy into action. Obviously, this is a land transaction which enables the GLA, the Great London Authority, to redevelop 50 acres of the former industrial site in the south of the borough, commonly called the Silvertown Keys, for a mixed-use development. And that sits at heart of the Royal Dock Regeneration Scheme, over the past 3 years, we've had various reports about the regeneration of the road docks in this borough. And this paper should be seen as and I use the word unlock to enable that to happen. And essentially that's what it is. It's allowing us to get a 50-acre site in Newham, which is going to be a mixed site, and it's going to be developed by the GLA. Thank you, Chair. And I've got a Giles Clark on and Andrew Ireland, 2 officers, Chair, who can answer any questions Cabinet and yourself may.
Okay, fine. Do we have any questions? Sorry, before I open up to questions, Giles, Andrew, would you like to add anything else about this agenda item?
Thank you, Mayor. I think the only point to add is that during consultations with between officers and local members, observations have been made regarding the removal of trees, which would enable the GLA to carry out the highway improvements. We're also aware of local residents' concerns around noise and dust. And so we have obtained details from the GLA of their new tree planting scheme, which will more than replace the number of trees that will be lost. And we've also obtained an assurance that the concerns of local residents will be fully considered when works are undertaken. So I think that's just worth noting as part of the recommendation.
All right, thank you very much. And I'll just draw everyone's attention to that when we get to the point. It's actually, sorry, I'm just looking. So that's 3.6, isn't it? Giles.
I will just check the paragraph in my paper, Mayor.
Thank you. In the meanwhile, Andrew, is there anything critical to add to what's already been said by the lead member and Giles?
Nothing from me, thank you, Mayor.
All right, super. Any questions? I've got Councillor James Asser.
So mine is just a point. It does actually come on from what Giles was just outlining. He's kind of answered my question in advance, but it is worth saying that this scheme does allow us to contribute to the wider scheme that people will be aware of the development of the Royal Docks corridor. And the section in question is a particularly difficult one at the moment for traversing, because the pavement is well set back from the road and is separated by quite a lot of bushes and doesn't feel particularly safe. So this will feed into our wider scheme along that road to make it more pedestrian friendly, more accessible, and generally less kind of scary for those on foot and driving as well, to be honest, and just make the whole area friendlier, so that this does that wider work.
Okay, fine. Sarah, do you have any questions?
No, thank you, Rox.
All right, super. Okay, I'm going to suggest that we move straight into the approval or otherwise of the recommendations as set out on big page number 149, spanning 2.1 to 2.1.2. Do we all agree?
Agree, Chair.
We agree. Thank you very much. Joy, did you catch that?
Yes, I did, Chair. Thank you.
All right, now we're going to be moving on to the next agenda item, which in the published pack is listed as agenda item 6, but is actually the new agenda item 9. And this is a paper that I'm going to be introducing, and it relates to the Affordable Homes for Newham programme. As everyone knows, we are marshalling ahead with the manifesto commitment to deliver or start, should I say, by the end of this first term, 1,000 homes at social rent levels as part of a wider ambition in addressing the housing crisis. Earlier on in the agenda, we've heard from Councillor Terry Paul around some really vital and important acquisitions, which reflects our multi-pronged approach to dealing with the housing crisis through both building, acquiring properties, as well as refurbishing and restoring some of our significant estates and council stock. This particular paper seeks delegated authority for contract award for 3 sites which sit within the Affordable Homes for Newham programme. And by doing so, in terms of approvals, we'll be able to start on site within this financial year. And as members of Cabinet, both in this room but also on Zoom, will be aware, what we have done with regards to the wider programme is ensure that where we're able to is to proceed concurrently across different strands so that we're ready to submit applications, begin with procurement, as opposed to wasting time for those phases to commence once we've completed each phase. So we're doing it in a much more smarter way. So as mentioned, these sites are part of the manifesto commitment around the 1,000 homes, and the sites are within Custom House and also support the council's wider regeneration and restoration ambitions in that part of the borough, and will provide up to 150 homes. And the council have followed a two-stage tender process, and this paper is seeking to appoint for the first phase, and further reports will be presented to Cabinet for approval of the design and build contracts. So at this juncture, I will pause and invite either Dave Hughes or Chris Holland to add any more points that are pertinent for Cabinet to know.
Nothing further to add, Mayor. Covered everything there. Myself and Chris are available for questions.
All right, great. Are there any questions, colleagues?
No, just apart from saying well done, Chair.
Okay, James.
Yeah, just a comment to say well done on the scheme. Glad to see it's progressing, not least because I'm one of the Custom House councillors, and Custom House is often in the area of the borough. It's good to see the sums which are and the values of these contracts, and potentially what we could do to uplift not just
Brilliant, thank you very much. Sarah, as another fellow Custom House councillor, ward councillor, is there anything you'd like to add?
No, just to really echo the congratulations. It's been a long time coming, and I know that residents will be really quite excited when we start to, I'm going to say, break the ground in Custom House. And I think that would, these new kickstart sites will actually send a real message to the community that we are regenerating. So well done, and thank you.
Thank you very much. I can't see any hands being raised for questions, so I'm going to just draw everyone's attention to big page number 34 and the recommendations that start 2.1 and go on to 2.1.1.3. 2.1.4. And I'm going to ask if we, in this room, as in members of the Cabinet and myself, do we all agree those recommendations?
Agreed, Chair.
Agreed. Thank you. Joy, did you catch that?
Yes, I did, Chair. Thank you.
Super. Right, the next agenda item that we're going to be discussing, it has been listed in the published agenda as agenda item 12, but it's now the new agenda item 10. And that's the East Ham Town Hall pre-procurement report, refurbishment of the South Wing. And as you all know, we are sitting in the historic and illustrious Grade 2 listed building, which is undergoing a phased programme of improvement works. But I'm going to be passing it over to Councillor Terry Paul. I've got Conrad and Giles.
Conrad and Giles, yeah. So this is obviously we're sitting in the list in the building in itself, but obviously this is to refurbish the south wing, which is the former planning office, and this is to upgrade facilities and to improve the facilities in this borough, in this building, but more importantly to make sure we maximise the potential of the building as we seek to rationalise our other buildings across the borough. But this is a straightforward Cabinet to continue to get the tender process. At the end of that tender process, the full report will be brought back for further decision of Cabinet. This is just seeking the initial award. And I've got Giles there. Giles, do you want to cover anything I've missed, please?
No, nothing to add, Councillor Paul. Thank you.
Okay. Are there any questions? No.
Yeah,
Sorry, go on, Sarah.
sorry. So while I welcome this refurbishment of the south wing, it sounds very grand. I just wondered what the timetable was for committee room 1 and 2, which are in a perilous state, decoration wise, and also at our corporate parenting meeting last week, it was noted with shame, to be honest, that the council chamber is not accessible to wheelchair users. And I just wondered if there was any plan to make those changes. So the wheelchair could come in to the door to your right, Terry, but then there are steps from the rest of the place. And it's not a great look, to be honest with you.
Chair, if I can, Sarah, I can come back to you because there is for members of the public, there is a lift from the bottom. There's a lift and an accessible chair lift to get to the level. Obviously, what we're talking about is there's a step there. Obviously, I can go away and look at that because of that. It's a structural change, and obviously we're looking at DDA compliance. So let me take that away with Giles and come back to you, because obviously what I don't know, this is a heritage building. There might be rules about adaptations.
Okay.
So let me come back to you on that. With regards to meeting room 1 and 2, again, can I go away and look at that, because it might be under a current programme of works. I don't know off the top of my head, but let me take that away and come back to you.
Thank you very much, Terry.
Thank you. Thank you for raising as well. And obviously, as a local authority, we have to meet the requirements of the equalities duty, and in line with our wider equalities and inclusion and diversity work corporately, no doubt the required remedial adaptations to demonstrate that we're adhering to the equality public duty around equalities will be adhered to. So I'm going to suggest that we go to the recommendations, only because I can't see anyone else wanting to raise a question. So if you can just make your way to big page number 216 and the recommendations as set out, because it's short, I'll read it. It's recommendation 2.1.1 to approve the proposed procurement route to undertake a tender exercise via construction online for the refurbishment of the South Wing at East Ham Town Hall using the JCT design and build contract 2016 with LBN amendments at an estimated cost of £2.75 million. So do we agree? Agreed. Okay, that's an agreement, Joy. And colleagues, apologies. I was remiss. I actually jumped and missed one agenda item that was meant to come before, well, a couple of agenda items, a while ago. So let me just make myself clear. So the agenda item 7 as published remains agenda item 7, and we haven't actually taken that. So that's 3 Thames Road Royal Docks acquisition. So now that we've done agenda item 10, we're just going to slightly jump back to agenda item 7, and then we'll commence thereafter with agenda item 11, which is the Highways and Sustainable Transport Delivery Plan. So over to you on the agenda item 7, acquisition of 3 Thames Road. Yeah.
Thank you, Chair. Obviously, this is again demonstration of my strategy to ensure that housing and farm colleagues are working together to meet our housing needs, which is structural. But this proposal, just to listing online, we have 51 new homes. That's 477, of which 73 of the homes, which is 39 more than currently consented, will be made available below local housing allowance for applicants. This will provide longer term security and certainty for our residents. What did you do? You will say, so what? I think it's fleshed out in the report, but I'll repeat it for those who are not looking at it right now. The proposal allows the council to reduce its reliance on costly, unsecure nightly let accommodation, which is not the greatest thing we can provide to our families and residents. It is a quite traumatic thing to go into that accommodation. Often people are very short term. And often what it does, it reduces our financial liability. It actually saves us money. So this is about us seeking to improve the situation for those residents in that type of accommodation. Again, it will save money for us. At the end of the 50-year period, the property will come back to the borough without any debt and remain a part of our stock and provide our accommodation. I've got here Andrew Ireland, who can answer any questions we may have as a cabinet. But I think this is a really good initiative. And also, again, if Shabs was here, my joint partner on this, it's obviously his glory as well. It's important to make sure that the housing colleagues and Shabs are correctly noted in this, because it's very much a joint endeavour. It's a great piece of work. And a great fit to be working internally together and keeping sort of outcome. So I've got officers there, Chair, who can answer any.
Darren, would you like to add anything to what you've heard from Councillor Terry Poole?
No, nothing more to add. Just say, we're fully supported by housing, and we're fully involved with Andrew in the progressing of this, and really good piece of work from our perspective.
Okay, super. Andrew, is there anything else that you'd like to add?
Thank you, Chair. I'd just like to quickly cover a couple of the inherent risks and mitigants that we've gone through in the collation of this paper and the provision of this opportunity to Cabinet. So those break down into three distinct elements. One is a potential reduction in the future demand for housing within the borough, and that risk is considered low given the current 5,600 plus people that we have in expensive temporary accommodation. The other is a potential disconnect between the rental income that we'll be receiving from this asset through the different tiers of private and affordable rent, and the debt servicing cost that we'll be paying out to a funder to acquire the actual asset. And I would highlight that we've been very conservative both in our modelling but also in our agreement around the funding terms, ensuring that the funding is pegged to CPI flat, with a capping of any potential increase in that indexation on an annual basis. And the third element is the operational costs that are inherent in running an asset of this type, and they're in general about 25% of the gross rental income, and we'll be managing the asset through our Populo subsidiary. So we'll have very close visibility and monitoring of that operation, and we'll have a contractual arrangement with Populo that will ensure that those annual increases in management cost, which cover management maintenance and voids, will be pegged at or below the increase in the rental income. So there won't be a disconnect between the cost of operation and the income that we're getting in. I'm happy to take any comments or questions.
Okay, fine. Do we have any questions? Sarah?
No, thank you, Chair.
Okay, fine. So any concluding remarks? Terry, any concluding remarks?
No, I'll just say, Chair, and to people listening, this and the report I brought earlier on Donald Hunter House just shows how the housing department and finance are really working well together. And I think, there are a number of projects going forward. I remember sitting here many years ago, as you are Chair, as a councillor, being told the housing situation is awful, especially temporary accommodation. There's very little we can do. I'm sure we're all familiar with that story. But again, utilising our balance sheet, and also it comes back on the work we've done in internal controls and good governance. It enables us to do it. And I think we've got to remind ourselves, but sometimes the internal controls and governance can be quite boring. But actually what it does, it frees you up to do the right thing because officers know their boundaries. And obviously, if you focus that on the target in hand, which is our temporary accommodation challenge. I think this is, some really good piss on the Hunter House. There was some last month we did Barking Road. You can see there's a continual throughput of accommodation. And I look at Colin and Zulfika, we talk about adults. When we talk about these properties, especially the ones in Hunter, we're actually talking about the accessibility of those buildings. We're going across the organisation to ask what other needs we can solve. I think I just wanted to make that point because I think it's really good when we're all working together internally and we're addressing our own questions and not seeing back and saying we can't do anything. So again, well done to the housing team, well done to finance, and also there's a lot of other colleagues involved in this. Just pay tribute to them, Chair. Thank you.
Thank you very much. And just echo the paying tribute and well done to the team involved. Right, so I'm going to just draw everyone's attention to the recommendations as set out on big page number 44. Do we agree? That's to cabinet members in the room.
Agreed.
Yep, agreed. That's an agreement by all, Joy.
Thank you.
Thank you. We're now going to be going to new agenda item 11, which in the published agenda pack is listed as agenda item 10, and that's Highways and Sustainable Transport Delivery Plan for TfL and the local implementation plan allocation for 2022-2023. And again, given the COP26 period that we're in, a very timely and long awaited paper. Over to you, Councillor James Asser, to introduce.
Thank you. So this is the draft delivery plan for our local implementation plan for 2022-23. Obviously builds on the work we've been doing for some time, looking at our creating more sustainable communities, promoting active travel, a range of programmes in terms of delivering agendas, but also importantly promotes things like cycling and cycle training, allowing people to access to. It's worth saying there's obviously been some disruption to these programmes because of the pandemic and the funding arrangements with TfL. So this is it's worth pointing out, this is a draft arrangement, because the one thing we still don't know permanently is what the final financial settlement for Transport for London is. The current settlement only goes to December. The government have rather messed around repeatedly and refused to come to a permanent decision on this. So we are still waiting in the next couple of months what their long-term solution might be. I think it would be fair to say that all boroughs think the government really needs to get its act together. This work is hugely important across all boroughs, and that's across political divides. But they're getting certain on doing that. So there is a caveat with this, is that we don't know what the financial arrangement is. And assuming our funding goes through, we've also been using the emergency funding and additional funding we've been getting through in the interim to try and promote some of these measures and deliver on some of our work. But this continues to roll out our plans around healthy school streets, low traffic neighbourhoods, and priority for active travel. Officers on the call who may be able to, I think I've got Jamie and Murray, though you're all very tiny on the screen in this room. If you want to add anything, it might be worth just, I don't know if you can add anything, Murray, on the current situation in terms of kind of LIP funding and TfL, if there's anything to add from what I've said.
No, nothing much to add, I don't think, Councillor Asser. As I say, it does remain provisional at the moment until the terms of the agreement between DfT and Transport for London is concluded later in the year. So it is an indicative programme at this stage, and if there are significant changes to it, we will bring it back.
Okay, thank you very much. Jamie, is there anything you wanted to add?
No, nothing else from me, Mayor, but officers are here to answer any questions if we can from the rest of the Cabinet. All
right, fine. So are there any questions, members, Councillor Zulfikar Ali?
Thank you, Chair. Firstly, well done, James and officers for getting this amount of allocation, which I know is much higher than some of the other boroughs. So well done for that. Secondly, you've raised the issue about it being indicative, and clearly we need more money, as much as we can get, in order to implement the scheme that we have on the long list here. If we were to get lesser, I'm assuming that there is a prioritization exercise. What is going to be going down the list as opposed to remaining where it is in that priority order that you have at the moment?
I can take the first bit of that, because I think, there are two things to say on that. Firstly, congratulations to the highways team and the officers in the fund and support we've started to see in the support of TfL does reflect the fact that we've been prepared to make some bold decisions and stick by them. And we know those were important, but actually being prepared to stick by them and work them through and work with residents and work with community groups to deliver that, I think has been important. I think just to back up, the provisional element, we've got COP26 going on at the moment. We're hearing lots from the government and the Prime Minister. If they're serious about us delivering on our programmes, they're going to have to deliver the support for local government to be able to deliver that stuff on the ground, because a lot of this stuff has to be done at a national level, but there's lots of local stuff, and the councils, especially after 11 years of the cuts and austerity programme, we do need resources and investment at a local level. But Murray, I'll let you jump in, because I think we'll be in a better position to kind of explain if it doesn't come through as we'd hoped, what TfL's process might be in terms of their allocations.
First of all, thank you, Councillor Ali, for the question. I think if I was asked to give an opinion, I think it's more likely that we are going to get more money rather than less. We were asked to base our delivery plan on our 2018-19 allocation, the last sort of formal, disrupted, COVID disrupted allocation that we had. But since then, as Councillor Assers correctly pointed out, we have actually been rewarded with higher levels of funding than we might have expected, because we have shown a fair degree of ambition in our sustainable and active travel programme. So rather than prioritise, I suspect we will be in a position of adding projects to this programme rather than taking any away.
Okay, and what happens if we don't achieve or progress along the trajectory that is hoped and that Murray has indicated his optimism for? Because this stuff is important, and I appreciate a lot of it's contingent on LIP funding and some of the challenges that TfL are presently facing that are quite extreme. And I also appreciate that, Murray's optimism is in part because of how Newham is viewed favourably with regards to our existing implementation of a number of schemes, including low traffic neighbourhoods. And I'm really heartened that quite a lot of parents, in fact, one most recently, raised low traffic neighbourhoods with me. And initially I thought, oh no, I'm going to get, a bit of a verbal kick in. But actually, when can we get more? Because they've been an absolute revelation and really transformative in terms of, pleasant environment. He can see more parents and kids talking about to school and the importance of that, not least because of our commitments around improving the air that our children breathe, and also our commitments to embrace fully sustainable transport. So if not through the LIP, what then?
As you're aware, Mayor, we have been successful in our Levelling Up Fund submissions. So there are some low traffic neighbourhood and healthy school street components in those bids programmes, which will allow us to continue with this work. There is also a capital programme which I am working on now. I know that we don't have a huge amount of money, but we do, I think, value our air quality and our sustainability very highly as an organisation. So I would hope such a bid would be viewed favourably to maintain the momentum on the delivery of these projects, because it's clear that Transport for London will not be able to fund everything. So whatever other funding sources we can find, I will continue to pursue.
All right, thank you very much.
Saying as well on that, in terms of any decisions we have to make, I think there's a couple of elements. Firstly, you've pointed out that some of the positive reaction, we are getting requests quite regularly now. I get them directly about people just having seen these schemes working, wanting to see them in their area, with low traffic neighbourhoods, but particularly school streets. We have quite a long list of schools that requested it. So some of this is now being driven by neighbourhoods and communities asking for measures in their area. Obviously, we want that to fit in with the kind of wider council priorities, but the other thing is to make sure we get it in the most effective way so that things fit together. So partly it's driven by the kind of where the priorities are, where we know the problems are, but also where the requests are, but how they fit together so we make them work as a kind of borough-wide scheme as well, just in the local area. So we'll think very carefully through that, and the team do a lot of mapping to look at kind of where things will work best. To get the best bang for our buck, really, to make sure we can do the maximum amount of good with what we've got.
Okay, thank you very much. And so just to clarify, if we've got the LIP as well as the monies that we've won, well, we've been allocated through our two £20 million a piece bids, £40 million in total, more than.
I'm looking forward.
I'm looking forward to, so those will be additional low traffic neighbourhoods outside of the 10 designated in the LIP.
Yeah, and additionally, there are programmes ongoing. Healthy School Streets, for example, we've had 2 phases. There's more being prepared at the moment, so that there are ongoing programmes that we're doing.
Okay, great. So I can't see any more hands up in the room. Councillor Sarah Ruiz, would you like to ask a question, or do you have a comment?
I have no comment or a question, Chair. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. Right, so let's go to the recommendations as set out on big page number 114. So do we agree?
Agree, Chair.
We all agree, yep. Great, thank you very much. Joy, did you catch that?
I did, thank you, Chair, yes.
Super. Now jumping on to what was previously published in the agenda as agenda item 8, which has now become new agenda item 12, and I'll be passing over to Councillor Zulfikar Ali to introduce.
Thank you very much indeed, Chair. As you will recall, back in April 2021, the Cabinet agreed to procure a range of public services, public health services through the network of pharmacies. Our officers from public health team and finance and procurement have worked together, and we now have a new specification, and this work has been done in order to make sure that it focuses on delivering our various policies, our 50 steps, health and wellbeing strategy, our pillars 1, 2, and 4, and our strategy toward better NUM and COVID-19 recovery strategy. Chair, currently 51 out of 68, and that is 75% of NUM pharmacies are contracted to deliver one or more of public health services. And this, in terms of the new contract, we have 41 pharmacies which have met the criterion for inclusion in this contract. Although it's lower than what we currently have, can I say, Chair, that there is scope for them to join in later. I would also like to say, Chair, the pharmacies have continued to play a very vital role in our local community. And I take this opportunity to thank them for their tremendous contribution during the COVID-19 pandemic, where a number of them came forward to offer COVID vaccine services. And if I may say, Chair, pharmacies' response was far greater than some of our GPs' practices, which is rather unfortunate. Also, our pharmacies greatly reflect diversity of the borough. They are geographically well placed and spread across, enabling easy access to our residents. These are indeed offering important access points to our many residents who may have language barriers, may feel digitally excluded, and find difficult to access public health services through other clinical routes. Just to point out, Chair, that during 19 and 20 financial year, there were around 22,000 residents' interaction with our pharmacies delivering public health services. So predominantly these pharmacies are locally owned, so they're contributing to our local community wellbeing strategy. And in terms of the moving forward for this new contract, these services are split into 2, one being the core services, and these have been highlighted in the report, and secondly, the specialist services, which are procured in a different way. And it is proposed, Chair, that we award this contract for a period of 4 years, with an option to extend this for further 2 + 2 years, subject to satisfactory performance. The total value over 8-year period of this contract is 3.5 million, and these costs are funded from our public health grant. Cabinet did agree back in April this year to delegate authority to the Corporate Director of Health, Social Care and Health, to award interim contracts arrangements to existing providers before the commencement of the new arrangement. It was our intention to commence this contract on 1st of October this year. However, undoubtedly due to COVID pandemic, unfortunately, we weren't able to meet this deadline purely for the reason that the initial response during the first round of procurement process was poor, and as such, this delayed the implementation. And that's why you will see a recommendation, Chair, that we are asking to agree a waiver to ensure that we continue to provide these services until the new contract starts, which is 1st of February 2022. So I ask the Cabinet to approve the recommendation as stated in page 279. I'll ask Colin and other colleagues, if they have Simon, if they wish to add anything else.
Thank you very much, Councillor Ray. No, I have nothing more to add, and we've got Simon Reid, who's also online for any questions that you may have.
Okay, fine. Simon, did you want to add anything?
No, nothing more to add, Chair.
All right, super. Are there any questions, colleagues, that you'd like to ask, or any points for clarification you may have? Councillor James Beckles.
Yeah, just to say, both Colin and Zulfik have well done. I think we've seen over the last year how valuable all sections of the health and social care and clinical professions are to our community's health. Newham's profile dictates that we probably have a very wide range, diverse community, which community pharmacies do add to. Looking through the spec for this tendering process, it looks like it's good value for money, which I applaud as well. And I hope residents at home get a chance to read it and look at how much is spent across the number of pharmacies, 51 on £2,854, which doesn't seem like a lot of money, but is well spent in terms of looking after our residents and their health. So well done.
Thank you, Councillor Beckles, and that is indeed the case, that the value for money is much better through pharmacy than if we were to deliver these services through other clinical routes.
Okay, so I can't see any more questions unless Councillor Sarah Roos, you have a question or point for clarification?
No, thank you very much, Chair.
Okay, so just drawing everyone's attention to the recommendations as set out on big page number 79. So that's 2.1.1 to 2.1.5. No, sorry, 4 even. So do we agree the recommendations in the report? Agreed? Agreed. Yeah, great. Thank you very much. And now this is a final cabinet paper that we're going to be considering. And again, this is Councillor Zulfikar Ali, and it pertains to award of contract domestic abuse accommodation services. Over to you.
Thank you, Chair. As we all know, that it is one of our key priorities to ensure that we have adequate arrangements in place to protect and support and accommodate victims of domestic abuse and sexual violence. And I'm indeed proud to say that we have a well-established track record of commissioning and funding a number of services in this regard for all genders aged 16 plus. I would like to stress this at this point that the service specification in the new contract has been co-designed in partnership with domestic abuse survivors, stakeholders, and pan-London domestic abuse organizations, and it fully meets the needs of women and children of South Asian and Black heritage. The new service will be responsive to adding multiple disadvantaged experiences by women, survivors, and their children. It will provide a holistic service, and the new service builds on our past experience and will cover trauma-informed therapeutic services, mental health support, special legal advice, employment and educational support, as well as, of course, move-on support to build their lives. As I said earlier, the new service has been designed with the service user, and one of the new initiatives which is part of this contract is to provide mentoring support for the service users to enable us to be part of the contract monitoring, which I think is ultimately they are the people who know exactly what services they've been getting, and it'd be good to involve them in the monitoring process. The value of the contract is based on fixed price, and that's 198,000 per annum, and that equates to 1.386 million over 5 years. Chair, our officers went through a very rigorous procurement process with an open mind, and there is a well-established refuge providers market out there, and we wanted to make sure that we go to as many people as we can to get the new service specification together. And as part of that process, Chair, we noted that about 40 providers actually viewed our tender package. Whilst the market is generally well developed, Chair, there are a limited number of suppliers with experience at providing high quality service to this specific cohort that we have been commissioning work to do. As a result, there was only one bid with and which our tender evaluation team has evaluated as part of the procurement process. And just to say, Chair, that the score of 75% for quality threshold was set, and the bidder, London Black Women's Group, actually achieved 91% score, which was exceeded our expectations. And the London Living Wage, as we know, is the key priority of this administration. And Chair, I'm pleased to say that the bidder have confirmed that that will be paid as part of this new contract. And can I also state, Chair, that all costs associated with provision of services are to be met from the adult and health budget, and funding is available for those. I asked Cabinet to approve recommendation as set on page 90 of the report. Colin and Fiona, if there's anything you wish to add.
Thank you, Councillor. And again, no, nothing to add. Thank you very much. We've got Ben Hackland, who's joining us online.
All right. Fiona, is there anything you'd like to add outside of what Councillor Zulfikar Ali has said?
You're muted, Fiona.
Sorry, nothing to add, thank you.
All right. Are there any questions, colleagues? And Sarah?
Yeah, well, not a question, but a comment, because I think that officers must have worked really hard with the successful bidder, because we're in a very different place this time round than we were last time round. So I think that probably is credit to Fiona, to her sterling work in ensuring that actually the organisation is now fit for purpose. So well done, Fiona. Thank you.
Thank you, Sarah. And I think I can confirm, and Colin may wish to add, but there has been a change of culture in that organisation, and that is reflected in the bid and the credibility of the bid that we received. So we have complete faith, but clearly we will have performance management arrangements in place to make sure the service is delivered according to the specification.
Okay, thank you very much. Anything else, Sarah? Was that satisfactory?
That was satisfactory, Chair, yes.
All right, thank you very much. Right, so I can't see any other questions wanting to be asked. So I'm going to suggest that we move straight to the recommendations as set out on big page number 90. And that's 2.1.1 and 2.1.2. Do we all agree?
Agreed, Chair.
Okay, that is the conclusion of the formal part of our Cabinet business. And I just want to commend all Cabinet members who brought papers to tonight's meeting, and more importantly, not that I don't care about Cabinet members, all the hard work that's gone into this by council officers, and to all of you we are indebted. And as we conclude this evening, let's continue to join the growing and vocal call that the leaders of the world listen to the call of humanity to save the planet over these 2 weeks of COP26. Thank you very much, everyone, and I look forward to seeing you at next month's